very warm welcome to EPM TV. Today we'll be looking at the differences between performance management in both the public and private sectors. And we're asking the question, what's different about performance management in the public sector? My two guests today are Nick Jackson, who's Head of Professionalism with Treasury, and James Stirk, who's the Oracle Director responsible for public sector performance management. Nick, let me start with you. Just to make certain that we're all on the same page before we start, what do we understand by performance management in the public sector? What does it mean? What are the key components?
I guess for me, in its most simple terms, performance management is all about the mechanistic process by which we look to drive improvement through the organisation and through individuals. And I often think about a four-stage process. IARDA, we call it. I, inform, so get the information together. A, analyse that information, get some insight from it. D, make some decisions. And A, act upon it. Now, in my experience, particularly in the public sector, the first two of those are very strong. We have lots of data, we do lots of analysis. Decisions, yes, they do get made, but it's the gap between decision and act, I think, is where a key challenge remains.
So we're quite good at analysing and understanding, but the decision and action we need to work out much more.
Correct.
James, you obviously work with public and private sectors. Where do you see the differences between the way in which performance management takes place and is operated in public and private sectors?
Yeah, if I just take a step back, I think performance management right now is at the heart of every commercial and every public sector organisation across the globe due to the challenges we have, throughout the world economy. The differences are negligible. Performance management is important to both sides of the house. I think the differences we're now experiencing is that commercial sector performance management is more developed in their adoption of policies, whereas public sector is more developed in their thinking around performance management, but as yet have not really adopted as much around performance management.
Nick?
Would you agree with that analysis of the differences?
I was just picking up on that last point. I mean, obviously, since '97, there's been much more of a drive towards targets, and we know kind of the positive and negatives associated with that kind of target-driven approach. And remember, before that, there was very little in the way of evidence collecting in a structured way. So targets have delivered some significant improvements and have provided us with an evidence base that we were lacking before. But there are some key challenges in the public sector that are slightly different nuances to the private sector.
We're now seeing much more emphasis on performance management than ever before in the public sector. James, why do you think that is? What's driving this pressure for performance management?
A number of initiatives right now in public sector. I mean, Oracle's involvement with this really started 15, 18 months ago. When we look at these CSR spending reviews, government set itself some rather big challenges of saving 30 billion over the next 5 years. And Oracle viewed performance management from its own experience in terms of how we globalise our business into how can we provide input and help with that process from both a cultural, a business and a systems capability. And we really do see performance management as a contributor towards that 30 billion saving.
Nick, I saw you nodding vigorously there. Right. You agree with James' analysis there?
For me, yeah, it is that kind of cultural change from pure target focus to, people forget the I word, the KPI. I is an indicator. It's an indicator of performance. It's not performance in its own right. And we've kind of lost sight of that a bit. So again, also that kind of conversation, which is a top-down thing, I think we need to be changing that to what I call a bottom-up conversation. So when I see my manager and I go through my numbers and what I'm doing, it's not a conversation of, oh, Nick, you failed. It's a conversation of me to my line manager saying, these are the issues and challenges I feel, this is where you can help me.
Nick, I've heard you before talk about, in that context, the golden thread linking high-level objectives. Would you like to explain that a little bit more?
I guess this is the concept of everybody in the organisation, no matter what their level, understanding how what they do contributes to the overarching objectives of the organisation. And I think the classic apocryphal story is the sort of the NASA cleaner who was asked, when cleaning the floors at NASA, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm helping to put a man on the moon. Actually, it doesn't matter where they are in the organisation, they understand what their position is.
So they contribute to the overall objectives. James, I guess one of the biggest differences between public and private sector is politics, politicians. I mean, how do you feel that makes a difference?
I think there are lots of political inputs and influences on the subject of performance management right now, and I think we're best probably leaving those where they are. However, it does heighten what's going on. I think whatever happens moving forward in the political landscape within the UK, performance management is going to be becoming more and more at the centre of every of the department's core business imperatives and needs. And I think the issue that we're facing right now within public sector, every department knows what it has to do. Yeah. The big question that they're asking now is, how do we do that? How do we define performance management?
Nick, at the Treasury, you're at the heart of the political challenges. I mean, how do you see the political impact?
I guess less the political, because we do have to stay away from the big P. But there is a reality check, which is, we now recognise that we have some real fiscal challenges to hit. And we can't do that in the way we've done it before, just a salami slicing. We need to take a much more strategic look at public service delivery and questions like affordability, priorities, return on investment. So increasingly ensuring we're linking finance to performance is really critical.
I think there are a number of key messages coming through from there, and at that point I think we're going to have to pull it to a conclusion. But my thanks to Nick, my thanks to James. I guess really what's coming out of that is there's an awful lot of commonality between performance management in both public and private sectors. The real differences are often around the politics, the measurability of outcomes, and I think some of the messages from James and Nick about being more strategic, the golden thread, all of those issues provide us with a really good agenda for taking this forward. So thank you very much to James and Nick, and thank you very much to you for watching.